Oops.
Oh, Kirky. Okay. So I'm just gonna say that just for.
Yeah, you may want to
No.
change that after if you want it every session, because now it will only display every other session with what you set.
Okay.
So
And we see the demographics in Canvas and Core 10.
yeah, so we probably should just include that on there. I'll talk with our developers about having that. I mean, you can see it when you go to a client level one. You can see all
Oh,
of the stuff that's showing up, and
okay.
I'll show you what that looks like. But so there should be a plus button at the top right of the screen. It should be like orange, like at the top right of yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's not.
Are
It's
you
so.
are you zoomed in or is it?
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, because usually it should all fit like on one
There
page.
we
But
go. Yeah.
so this is where you can create the new measures. And so in
Okay.
the case of your religious commitment measure, you just put, religious commitment inventory, which I imagine is what it is, but
Yeah.
yeah. And then you can specify a language. And so if are you guys doing some in Spanish? Was yours a site that was doing that?
Yeah, we might have a couple because we have a site. So for the longest time, I'm the only Spanish speaking counselor here in Winston-Salem, but I think in Fayetteville they have one. So we might have one too. Yeah,
So
a
if you
couple.
guys decide to do that, so a key part of this will be when you add the new measures. So let's say
Uh-huh.
you want the religious commitment one in English and Spanish. You would create a religious commitment English version and then create another new measure that's Spanish and then
Okay.
just specify that that's the language. And I'll show you kind of more of how the language interface works, but like across like for the clients it should automatically then display the measures that correspond to the language that they have chosen or that your site assigns to them.
Okay.
And then there you can add a subscale if you want. So if it has subscales, if it's just a total score, you can just put total. But
Okay.
and
All right.
then and then to create the questions, yeah, you just hit that yeah, the
One.
pencil button, and that brings up the question choice types, and you can choose either the first one is like a single response, so they can only choose one option, so kind of like a Likert scale. Next one's multiple choice. The next one's a text entry where they'll get a text box that they can fill out. And then this one is just for like instructions. It's the descriptive text just you can put like header text basically on there. So if you have like instructions for the measure, that's what that last one would do. So just pick one for now. Maybe just pick that single selection.
Yeah.
You click that. There
Ah.
for the question text.
Okay.
And then if you hit the plus button that inside that card, you can add response scale choices. Right.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I can just click and oh, I see.
And then
Okay.
you just hit save on each of those individually, and it should like on
Should
those
say.
save it.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So you have that, and then to create another question, you see all the question icons below there as well, below that card. Those same icons that the like circle. So there you can just choose another. And if you click on that, the little thing that looks like a copy button, because it is,
Mm-hmm.
it'll copy the response scale from your previous choice. So see
That
the
one right
orange
there.
one? Yeah. So if you hit that button real quick, and it'll copy the often and once a week.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. So that's a lot of feedback we got before we did that was like, hey, our measures all have the same response scale to knowing you have to type that in. So
Okay.
yeah, I figured that would make it a little easier. But you could also add more to it if you want, or just not even copy it and just add manually. So that's basically how this works. Like most of the rest of the question types will be pretty similar. To add another subscale, if you ever need to do that, you hit the plus button up by the measure
That
text
one?
at the
No.
very no at the very top there. Hit that, and that'll add a new subscale
Oh, I see.
that way. And then you can
Okay.
just delete that subscale by hitting the trash button next to it, and that'll delete it. And then if you just hit save at the bottom, that should save it. Oh, shoot.
Is it
So,
able to? Oh,
so we have this thing, this will be fixed by next week. Go to your response scale. On your response scale, you can't have a space at the end of it. Sorry, that's kind of random. It's just a little bug we hit here. So click on that and see if there's any, okay, there's not a space there. So hit save. We just have a
okay.
little bug where if there's a, oh, so yeah, so hit delete, yeah, and then, and do the same thing on the question 2 one. Like it's, okay, that should be good. So now hit save and see if that works. Like I said, that should be resolved.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
There we go. So now you have that religious commitment one there, and you can edit that at any time by hitting the pencil button there, and it'll bring up that same interface to edit it if you want to add items or change them. And then if you click the schedule button there, it has the same scheduling features that we just looked at with the camos there, to where you can specify how often you want the measure to display. So let's say you want that to go at the first session. You would go to at specific sessions and then hit 1. So that would say it shows at session 1. If
Okay.
you want more sessions, if you wanted it to be at like 1, 3, and 25, then you just separate those with a comma. So you just put 1, 3, 25.
Okay. I see.
And so now this measure should display at the first session for every client that's a part of your study.
Okay.
So anyway, so there's that. And then we also have the reporting. If you go over to that top screen there, and this shows how many people have completed each measure by site. And we're going to make this prettier here, but we just wanted to get some of that information up there. And then at the settings, there's some people who didn't want their therapist to get the outcome reports. And so if you don't want your therapist to get the outcome reports, you can uncheck that. But if you want them to, then just leave that checked.
Okay.
But
The
yeah.
outcome reports meaning this report right here.
No, so this would be at the therapist level. We have feedback
Gotcha.
reports that come to the therapist that tell them what responses the client put and kind of scores it and everything. So basically they have a way of using feedback from the data that's being collected to inform treatment potentially.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the site creation then. So go to sites then and hit so this will just show a list of all the sites you have. And if you hit edit, you can edit the site information or delete the site. But yeah, so if you just hit edit, it'll show information there. And that has the information about the treatment site. If you ever want to change that, you can do that. But most of the time that's never needed. So yeah, if you just hit save or exit, either way. That's how that this miss is annoying there. I want to get rid of that. Oh, did it not do it? Okay. So hit the plus button at the top right to create a new site. So basically across the whole site, if you see a plus button at the top right, it usually means creating some new thing related to that tab. So just create a dummy site, a test site if you want to. I mean, it could be Winston-Salem 2 if you wanted, or Winston Test 2.
That's true. Okay. And then the link here is the person that's like the research champion on that site, or?
So this could be, yeah, it could be the research champion, or if you have the main role for the person who will be signing up for this will actually be client creation, therapist creation, and if you have groups, group creation. And so for a lot of people, it's actually, yeah, it might be you, or it might even be, office staff that work there, the people at the front desk of, hey, I just got a call and this person is making an appointment, so I'm going to add them to the system here. So, yeah, and then put a real email there. So probably just your email since we're testing it out.
Yeah. Could also be the research champions, they supposedly already have this information, or they're before the research champions can do anything, the sites already have to be created for them, right?
Yeah. So you're the one who creates the site for them. And what
Right.
this
And
will do is
they
it'll
will have access to only their site, not to all of their sites.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah, so this person will only have access to therapists that are created under their account, basically. And
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Okay, and then yeah, just put those. And then the language that you put, yeah, I probably should just put United States on the top since most people are there.
Yeah, that would be
If
nice.
it's you, it should go to it.
You.
Go close to there. Yeah, I'll talk with our developers about just putting that first because that's so the language that you put here, by default, that will be the language for all clients who are created at that site. So if you have sites that are more Spanish speaking, you could put Spanish as the default, but they will have an option to override that later. So if you have kind of mixed sites, sites where there's some Spanish, some English, like it sounds like your site is at Winston-Salem, then the clients themselves can choose the language. And next week, we're actually going to have it to where when the client is created, you can specify a language for them. But for now, yeah. So choosing that language is important there of like, hey, if this is an English site, then by default, everything's going to be English for them.
Okay. Cool.
All right, and then just hit save there. And what this, so basically, you should get an email to that, your email there.
Do I need to open it now because it's gonna?
It should have, yeah, it should be there. So there it is.
Okay.
And it should have a link in there. Oh, why is that not? That's funny. Huh. You should just copy and paste that link. Like in most email clients I've seen, it usually has that as a hyperlink.
So it can be, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you can still just copy that and paste it in there. And so in terms of when you're doing this for real, this would send to this site manager person. So whoever's going to be creating the therapists and the clients at a treatment site,
okay,
that's who you want to send this to, and they'll get this email. And then basically they just have to go and fill out and create a username and a password here.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Yes, this can be test to site. And it has to be a unique username, so you might want to put something a little more unique because I think test 2 will probably already be taken.
Okay. Winston?
And maybe just put, yeah, test 2 Winston or site. The way I often do it is I put like kind of like a site user thing because you're going to have to create 2 more, test Winston site. Yeah, there you go. And remember that though, because we'll need that to log in just a second. So.
And the password too? Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me type it and make sure I. Okay.
Okay, so hit save. And that should create the site. And I think it should redirect you, back to the page. And so if this were a real person going through it, if this were a real example, it would take you just to the login page now, since they wouldn't have a researcher account. Oh, there, it actually worked just fine. Okay, so go ahead and add and log in as that.
Okay.
And put in the password there. All right. So this is where this site.
Here I'm in the place as a sort of site manager, right? That could also be the research champions, or does it have to be me for all the sites?
It can be whoever is going to be creating therapists and clients at the site.
For that particular site. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that's the person that you want this going to. So if that's in a lot of cases with the research we've done with it, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the office manager or something like that.
Okay.
You have that. If you don't have office managers at some of them, in a lot of cases you could just be like you yourself could be the site manager for it because therapists can also create clients. So if there are any like we have a lot of people who like have solo practices, for example, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
have like any office staff, it's just them. So in their case, this site manager role really isn't that important. So we just have like the researcher saying, okay, I'm just going to create the therapists and treat all of my solo practitioners as just a single site in terms of the system.
But could it be also the research champions, or is
It,
that too much work for them?
it could if you want to, yeah. So I think it all just depends on how you decide in terms of your procedures of who's going to add people to the system. So that could be the champion as well.
Okay.
So, so maybe try and create a therapist here, and I can kind of guide you if you run into any problems. But lots of steps and lots of ideas to create.
Yeah. So this is it will be a therapist email on here,
Yeah,
right?
but send it to yourself here since it's
Okay, can I use the same email or do I need to use?
yeah, you can use the same email across a bunch. But yeah, so this would be the therapist in the real case.
Okay.
Okay, so hit save.
Oh, so send another invitation.
Yep, and it'll basically be the exact same process for the therapist here.
Okay. No.
Yeah, it's weird it doesn't hyperlink there. I'll have to check that out.
It could be because I'm using the web.
The Outlook.
I'll look in the
That's no
web
problem
instead
with
of the
Outlook
actual real
too.
one. I don't know. That might be it.
Gmail turns them all into hyperlinks, but I had the same
Yeah.
problem actually on because I use the Outlook web app sometimes too here at my work. And,
Yeah.
okay, so let's bring up the form.
Okay.
Okay, so just create a username there. All right, now you should. I'll redirect you.
I think that's. Oh yeah.
You might. Oh, there it works fine. So now here's the therapist dashboard. And at this
Okay.
point, the therapist doesn't have any clients assigned to them, so there isn't a ton to do here. And so the therapist can actually create clients as well if they hit the plus at the top right of the screen there,
Done.
and they could create a client there. Oh, well. Oh, I wonder if there's a, what's that? Huh, that's funny. I've never seen that before until just now. I wonder if it's because you're logged into the other ones. I don't know.
Should I close them?
Yeah, maybe try closing those out or logging out of those. Although it might do funky stuff anyway because we've logged in.
Yeah, it locked me out of that one.
Okay,
Of the
that one already
therapist.
did. So yeah, just go ahead and close those tabs then. I think it probably logs me out anyway.
There we go.
Weird.
And now
Try hitting
refresh.
refresh. Yeah,
Oh,
try hitting refresh. That's weird. I'll have to test that out.
The other thing I noticed that the links don't work on Excel. Yeah. Oh no, not Excel. On Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Is that true? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, Internet Explorer should work on Edge though, like the newer Microsoft one. But yeah, Internet Explorer it doesn't work on. But it should work on Chrome and Firefox and Edge. I think it should.
All
Yeah,
right. So
you're gonna see if that's pretty bad if that's what's happening there.
oh, there we go.
Okay, so it probably was just the weird stuff with the logins. So
Okay.
they're basically to create a client, so the client doesn't get any emails since we're not getting any identifying information from them. So to create the client, all you have to do is just put the client ID there and then specify the modality of treatment. Let's see, that ID is probably taken already, so you'll probably get blocked.
Does it have to be numbers only?
Nope, it can be anything.
Okay.
I mean, you could do John test 21, something like that.
Okay.
There you go. And so this box here, if you check that, so the purpose of this is if you start with clients who are already in treatment,
yeah,
time you start the study, if you check that box and then indicate the number of sessions already attended, and so that way in our data on the back end, and when you export it, you'll be able to know, okay, this was their first session in terms of taking the surveys, but they've actually attended 5,
Cool.
So yeah, so if you hit save there at the bottom, now that client should appear. And you can also create clients from the site manager dashboard in basically the exact same way, just like you created a therapist. What was that?
Then what dashboard can you also click?
From the site manager dashboard, you can create the clients because you had the therapist tab there. And if you do clients, it'll create clients as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm still here as a therapist, though, right?
Yeah. So you're a therapist right now, yeah.
Okay.
So the main things that the therapist will do is they'll take the TSC, which is the therapist administered measure, and so that's and they can view client reports. So the first thing you want them to do though is this TSC tailoring. So if you click on that button up there, and so what this is oh, what the heck? Hit that one more time. That was weird. Okay, that should just pull up. It's probably just a little slow. Our system's having a funky time with all the different logins. It's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so the TSC tailoring, what this is for is so we have the therapist can come in and they can choose checklist choices that they think that they're most likely to use. So for example, like I'm pretty psychodynamically oriented and I rarely ever do something from, a rational emotive behavior therapy. So in that case, I can uncheck REBT over there, and anything that's checked will be included as a choice on my checklist. Any of these here when I go to take it for a client, and this applies across all of my clients. So basically here, you're just setting up the therapist session checklist. And so you can also add a custom choice. So let's say it's like, oh, I actually do, DBT or something like that, and that's not on the list here. You can add that by putting DBT or, dialectical behavior therapy into there, and that will become a choice for all of your clients. And so each therapist can specify this uniquely for themselves. Exactly, yeah.
And they can do it before they actually answer the survey, they can do this. So it's ready for them. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
They hit save, and now that will be an option for when they go to take it for their clients. And so you can go across. You can do that for all of the sections of the TSC. So there's interventions, And interventions is unique in that it only selects interventions from theoretical orientations that you had selected in the last one, if that makes sense. And then you can choose
Oh,
specific ones there, as well as add custom interventions in the same way that you did over there. Then you have the spiritual interventions, same thing, and you can add custom choices there. Counseling topics, it's all kind of has that same format. And so the goal of this is to say, hey, we can get a broad range and we can have a big list of stuff, but when
mm,
people actually use it, they can really drill down to what's likely to be used in their context.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then if you just hit save at the bottom, that'll save
Is there a
all.
place where they need to type anything? Will there be like a text box or
Yeah, there
something? Or
will be at the end of the actual TSC, but since there's nothing to tailor with that, there's nothing here
okay, yeah.
for that. So,
All
okay,
right.
so you have that. And so let's say John test client one just came for a session and you just
Mm-hmm.
finished it up and they need to take the TSC. What you would do is click the pencil icon on the far right of the card for the take TSC. And then they basically just go through and do that for the client.
Oh,
And if you
nice.
notice, it has play therapy up there that you added and doesn't have the two that you unselected.
Okay. And then they just go through this.
Yep, they just go through all those. And
But
one
for
thing you can,
example, for example, like if I did play therapy, I did play therapy and family therapy too, but it didn't come up in the interventions.
yeah,
I guess
so play
whatever we had.
therapy, there's nothing associated with it because you just created it, so you'd have to create those custom. And some of the theoretical orientations actually we didn't have interventions specified. And family therapy actually might be one we remove anyway, just because technically it's not a theoretical orientation, it's a modality. And
Right.
so yeah, and if you want to show all of the choices, you can uncheck that only show favorites. So let's say someone filters all the way down, like in your case, since you had all of them checked in the tailoring, it already is showing all of the list. But
Yeah.
if, but so basically if they say, hey, I selected all these, but there might be a choice that I wanted to use that was a part of the list but wasn't one of my favorites, you can uncheck that and it'll pull up the whole original list.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so you just go through that, do all those. Yeah, so you talk about the topics there.
Oh, here are the case notes. Okay.
And then they can just put important insights or changes that they want to in there.
Okay.
So any qualitative information they want to do that. And it doesn't have to be case notes. Like I want to actually maybe change that header because I think it could be misleading for people because it doesn't have to just be case note. Like basically any qualitative thing you want to put about that session for us to know with the research, go ahead and put that in is basically
Okay. And you didn't have anything to add? Could that be left blank, or did I have to add something?
it can be left blank.
Okay.
So even if they don't even go to that section, it would be fine.
Okay. And does it have to be a certain length? Like, will this be okay? Those 3 words that I just.
Yeah, anything they want to put
Okay.
is helpful just in terms of, and kind of with the focus on, if there's something that they think would be relevant to the research or something, or just something they think, hey, this important thing happened in session, to put that down.
All right.
That's it. So that's what they do at each session for the client.
Yeah.
And then if they want to review that and see what they'd put for the previous session, they can hit that center button on there, the review TSC, and it'll show all of those responses. And you have a list of your responses on the left side with the date there that they can either view it or edit it or delete it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you hit back to that home, but yeah, so the edit will just pop up the TSC, and then yeah, if they hit home, it just goes back to the list of the clients.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that would work. And then the last button on there is that target button, and that would
Mhm.
be the client outcome report. So basically, this will display all the data from the clients, given that there's no client that's taken any data here, or we haven't acted as a client yet. There's no data in here, but it does show the checklist and the case notes here. So kind of the idea, and we have some people who actually use it as case notes, is hey, you can see the outcome report while also seeing your previous note kind of all in one place. And so
Gotcha.
so yes, that's basically the therapist dashboard. I mean, after we do a client, I can show you what the report looks like here, but that's
Mhm.
basically what the therapist would do.
That's not that bad. And it's actually pretty easy.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad it feels that way. 'Cause I know sometimes doing all the
Yeah.
roles, it's like there's so much, but really they do that TSC tailoring one time and then they just do that take TSC and pop through the questions real quick. Usually takes
Mhm.
people like a minute or two at most to knock out. And
Great.
TSC as well, it will save their response from the previous session. So go to take
Mhm.
TSC again. And this might be a feature that we make optional here, but we've had a lot of people wanting that it will actually save your responses from the previous one. Kind of hope that
Okay.
that will just make it a little easier for people to do since it's like, yeah, if I'm seeing the same client, like I'm probably using a similar theoretical orientation. We're oftentimes talking about similar topics,
Yeah.
so that makes it so that it
Oh, gotcha.
is maybe a little easier for them to do. And
But it
obviously,
was with a different date, right?
yeah, so they'd put a different date there, yeah, and make sure to tell them to put the date of the session, not the date that this is being taken. So if they take it the day after the session, make sure that they put it on the day like because that's how we associate the client and the therapist responses together is by both of them indicating what day the session's happening.
Okay.
So yeah,
And do you see a diagnosis here?
yeah. So they can put whatever they want, and then that will carry forward each session.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's the therapist role. And then the last part would be the client role. So if you log
Mhm.
out and remember that client ID, because we'll use that to log in, that John test client one.
And do we create a password for that?
So you use the ID as both the username and the password for clients.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have them create one. So
Oh, yeah. We don't get an email from them. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Usually it should go faster than this without the screen sharing, but
Yeah. John test. Was it one client?
or client one, yeah, there you go.
John test client one. Huh. John
Maybe
test
there's maybe there's a
one.
typo in the password or something.
Yeah, it wasn't capitalized, was it?
I don't think so, because you were able to log in, or was it? I don't know actually.
John test client one. Nope. It might be capitalized. Let's see.
And make sure to capitalize it in the username too. Then it was.
Um,
There you go.
yes.
So this is where the client will land then. So a client comes in, they put in their ID into both of those fields, and then they come here.
ID where? Oh, okay, yeah, the
And
login.
log in, yeah, like you just did. And then here we have our demographic questionnaire that only should show up after at the
The
first session.
one. I currently employed, yes. Opportunity life now. To discuss now. To please. Yes. Okay. There's a maybe option.
I know we actually originally had that, but
Yeah.
other people said they didn't like that. But yeah. So so here you're getting into the questionnaire. So this is the core 10, and the Camos actually isn't going to show up here. I th- I believe it won't because of the schedule that you made. To where you said you wanted it every other session. So
Uh,
it's not starting yet. So this would be the core 10, and
and then I see down here the questions.
that you added. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you can also do, if you scroll back to the top, there's the little flag icon at the very top right in the banner there. You can change that over to Spanish. And you just have to, there you go. And it should reload. We're still finalizing our translation stuff. There's maybe a few things that aren't translated, but most of it should be. There's just a couple aspects of the interface that won't be in Spanish.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's a way that they can do it, to show it all in Spanish.
Nice.
And then it didn't show your questions you added because you only added an English measure.
Question. Yeah.
So we don't want the English measures showing for the Spanish speaking client. So if you added a measure and specified the language to be Spanish, then that measure would have been showing up there for the Spanish client.
Okay. That makes sense.
So yeah, so that's basically it. They'll just hit save at the bottom and it'll take them out. It'll take them out of there and back to the login page.
Huh. And that's it.
That's it.
Oh, it seemed a little overwhelming at some point, but now that I'm seeing it, it should be fine.
Oh, good.
And
I'm glad that it's feeling that way.
yeah, I noticed that it said before the session and after the session. I thought that all the service of the forms needed to be filled out after the session. Is that not correct?
So actually, most people are doing it before, and
Oh,
that partially can be useful. They can fill it out before, and the therapist can actually get the outcome report based on
okay.
what the client just did. And so, but that's why we put it there. Some people are doing it before, some people are doing it after, and we wanted to know that since it could be a potential confound in there of, people are filling it right after a session. They might have lower scores potentially or higher, I guess, depending on how they did it. But basically, that'll allow us to control for that of when that was taken.
Okay. And wasn't there a questionnaire about therapy and client relationship?
Yeah, so I don't remember what happened. Oh, that's what it was. There was something with the working alliance inventory we had in there originally. And the Camos has a therapy progress dimension, but that's not quite as specific to the alliance as the working alliance inventory. But I think part of what happened was we had to pay like a licensing thing for it. And so I think
Okay.
we ended up dropping it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
That's good. So this is it. This is all the client that will have to fill out.
yep, they just come in. Somebody puts in their ID, whether it's the client themselves or the site manager or therapist who knows the ID, put it in, and then
Yeah.
the client just goes through, and all the questions will pop up according to your schedule. So,
And
hoping.
then the therapist
Yeah.
fills out the
Mhm.
TSS.
Yeah, the TSC. Yeah, so the therapist just does that after every session. They find the client and go in and do that.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully, let me know if you have any more questions. Like there may be a few features that I didn't show in there, so feel free to
Okay.
play around and kind of see like, okay, take it as a client and check out the Camos, the client outcome report. But in terms of the main structure of getting the data collection, I think what we just walked through should cover everything.
Mhm. I think so too. Yeah, I think it, and I'm surprised how easy it is actually.
Oh, good.
I'm glad it's easy than I thought it would be. So,
And I think
but
it's a
I'll
little
definitely reach out.
intimidating at first since you're acting in all four roles,
Yeah,
that it can
you
feel
know,
pretty intimidating. But really, when it comes to each individual person's contribution, it's a little, it's a lot less than all four of them. So
right. Yeah, and also I'll go over this recording and what you showed me with Stephanie next week, and we'll reach out if we have any more questions.
perfect. Well, thank you. Well, it was great to meet
Thank
you and to
you
get
for
to
your
go over
time.
this.
Yeah, and we'll see each other at the conference, I guess, in a few years.
Exactly.
You
Years here out in your guys'
guys
turf,
are
I
coming
think.
down here.
I was gonna say we'll be out in your guys' turf out in North Carolina.
Yeah, should be a good time.
Well, cool. Well, thanks. Well, it's
All
great to meet
right,
you, and thanks for reaching out. Feel free to reach out with any other questions.
sounds good. Thank you.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.
Let's see.